You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Packers Talk.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tehan. In addition to this show, I write for the PackersPost.com and Cheesehead TV. Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, how we doing? One preseason game left, and then get ready for the real thing.
Yeah, and a good way to get ready for the real thing, it's going to our sponsor, Ticket King, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. Hey, they've been sponsoring our show. They engineer our show. Thank you so much to Wisconsin's own Ticket King for more than 30 years. They've been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans as well as Bucks, Brewers, and Summerfest tickets. Hey, Brewers got a homestand coming up this next week. Get some tickets while you can through Wisconsin's own Ticket King. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com. That's theticketking.com, or you can visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. You can watch every episode of No Huddle Radio on Packers Talk Network on YouTube. Click on the bell. Turn those notifications on. Join the discussion. Chat with Gil and I live. We love to see and talk about the comments coming our way. And Gil, there was a lot of discussion after Saturday's game, and it's a big focal point was Marshawn Lloyd just not being able to stay healthy. It seems like this guy just catches the worst breaks. He's only entering his second year in the league. He played 10 total snaps last year as a rookie, but he dealt with numerous injuries. He's dealt with a hamstring, a groin, a hip, an ankle, appendicitis, and then a hamstring again on Saturday after a beautiful catch down the sideline in that second preseason game against the Colts, and he hurt his hamstring on that play. Gil, this is a guy who's obviously clearly very talented. I think people think very highly of him, and it really just sucks right now because he can't stay on the field. But in the long run, Gil, can the Packers count on Marshawn Lloyd, or is it just a matter of, hey, if we get something out of him, it's only a bonus? Because how do you look at it from here with Marshawn Lloyd?
I'm not ready to write him off just yet, but his inability to stay healthy is becoming very frustrating, and we have to see how long he's going to be out as a result of this injury. You know, what was it? They sent Christian Watson to a specialist. I believe they sent Jair Alexander to the same specialist.
Eric Stokes also. And Marshawn Lloyd went to the same specialist too.
Yeah, well, he needs to go back.
Yeah.
I mean, something's got to give. Look, sometimes it's just bad luck. You know, I mean, sometimes it is that the guy's body is wound too tight, that the muscles just, aren't going to stay healthy because his body can't handle the pounding that a body takes being an NFL player. I don't know what category he fits in yet, but it's so frustrating because in the limited reps we've seen him in, we can see how dangerous he's capable of being.
And obviously it's going to affect the 53-man roster cut down next week. And Gil and I are going to get to that in just a bit with our initial 53-man roster predictions. We're pretty much the same on most stuff, but some guys were a little different. But with Marshawn Lloyd, it definitely changes how the way this roster is going to stack up on Tuesday by the time roster cutdowns do roll around. The thing is, someone brought up a really good comparison. A former third-round pick, you may have remembered the name Mike Flanagan. I know, Gil, you remember Yep. Mike Flanagan. He was a very good center for the Green Bay Packers. He was a third-round pick by the Packers in 1996, but he didn't get onto the field for regular season play until 1998, where he only played 2 games. Then he became a Pro Bowl center after that. He actually was traded to the Carolina Panthers, but then the trade fell through because he failed a physical.
Yeah. And
it seems like Marshawn Lloyd, it's kind of the same boat where the talent you have, but if it's a matter of like, hey, maybe there's going to be a discussion of a trade coming up, especially if he's going into year 3 and he's dealing with these injury issues. Who knows? Maybe he gets over this hamstring right now and he becomes an impact player, but I simply cannot count on it this year for Marshawn Lloyd because he can't stay healthy.
Look, to me right now with Lloyd, it's got to be everyone has to be from Missouri. Show me, show me.
Yeah.
I want to believe. I want to see what this guy can do, but until he gets on the field during an actual game and shows me what he can do, I'm going to be skeptical.
Yeah, and you see the talent though. The limited action you have seen from him he is clearly so talented. He's got some burst. He can move in the open field, and it's something that I love Josh Jacobs. I think he's a terrific NFL running back, but Josh Jacobs doesn't have that burst that Marshawn Lloyd has. Emmanuel Wilson, I like him too, doesn't have it. Chris Brooks, I like him as well, but he doesn't have that. He brings a different element to that running back room. It just sucks, and you can't help but feel terrible for him. It's not for a lack of trying, or it's not like I can't imagine he's sitting on the couch all offseason, then he just rolls onto the football field like Eddie Lacy kind of did back in the day. But I think it's just a matter of just really bad luck, and sometimes the body doesn't hold up, like you said, Gil.
Yeah, and hopefully the luck changes. Hopefully we see him sooner rather than later. But right now it's one day at a time, one step at a time, and I hope we see better things and more from Marshawn Lloyd on the field.
Any contributions you're going to get from him is only going to be a bonus at this point. Some other notable injuries from Saturday's preseason game in Indy. Barron Sorrell sprained his MCL in a special teams play. He's had a really good camp, but coaches said he will be out for a bit, but he may not miss too much time. Omar Brown, the best story from Family Night a few weeks ago, suffered a scary chest injury. You may have seen him if you're watching the broadcast with an oxygen mask in his mouth, and he had a chest injury. He was kept in Indy for days with that chest issue, and really a scary situation for Omar Brown, and hopefully he's going to be okay moving forward. But just too many injuries right now for the Packers. The regular season needs to get here.
Yeah, it does. And those preseason games, there's always that dilemma. Do you play guys? Do you sit guys? Injuries, Matt LaFleur says if you play them, there's less injuries statistically. Look, injuries are part of football. They are unavoidable, but boy, some of these, thankfully, nothing seems to be season ending for important players on this team, but there have been a lot of injuries.
A lot of nagging stuff right now. And I will say, though, a bit of a dilemma, if you want to call it that, is the left tackle spot going forward for the Green Bay Packers. We've seen what Rasheed Walker could do. He's looked pretty serviceable ever since he replaced David Bakhtiari a couple of years ago. But then you got Jordan Morgan, who the Packers spent a 2024 first-round pick on, and he has faced the starters against the Jets, against the Colts in 2 preseason games. And Gil, the guy's been locked down, and he looks like a first-round pick. He looks terrific. He looks like a natural left tackle. Packers have an interesting situation where they got 2 guys who could probably start at left tackle anywhere in the NFL, and they got 2 of them. Who starts at left tackle for the Packers to open the 2025 season? Because honestly, I don't think there's a bad choice right now.
Yeah, this is a good problem to have, right? I mean, having 2 guys who could play and protect your quarterback's blind spot. I get the feeling week 1, Rasheed Walker still starts, but I think we see the similar rotation maybe that we saw with Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan early last year.
Interesting.
Where, every third series or every other series, maybe Morgan mixes in if he doesn't beat out Sean Ryan for right guard.
Now, Bill just chimed in on the chat, and I wanted to say this too. The idea of shuttling Morgan and Walker is unsettling. I understand that. I do understand that, especially at the left tackle spot. That's your premium spot. And besides center, I feel like those are probably the 2 most important spots probably on the offensive line. They're all important, but those are probably the 2 most critical ones. But Gil, like you said, the Packers have been known to shuttle guys in and out of games. They've been known to do that. So I wouldn't leave it beyond this coaching staff to possibly do that with Walker and Morgan. I do think I'm with you. I think Rasheed Walker is the starting left tackle to open the season. But I think his job is he's under fire right away because they know what they have. I feel like they have a good idea what Jordan Morgan could bring at left tackle. And then also Jordan Morgan in a reserve spot as a 6th offensive lineman who could play 4 positions. That's going to be super valuable to have coming off the bench if need be. But I think right now, Rasheed Walker, but there's a tighter leash than there was probably a year ago.
Yeah, he doesn't have much margin for error, that's for sure. And it'll be interesting to see how he responds to that pressure.
I will say what was impressive with Jordan Morgan, too. It's not only they look natural, but left guard on Saturday against the Colts is Donovan Jennings, and he struggled. He did not play well. So Jordan Morgan didn't get any help from Donovan Jennings at left guard, and he still looked great. And he still looked just really good. He essentially won every single matchup in pass protection. He was really good in the run game. It's just promising things where people were ready to write off Jordan Morgan this training camp. It just goes to show it's like, hey, sometimes the young guys, you need to let them grow. You need to let them kind of build up a little bit and get through a full. And remember, he didn't have a full training camp last year dealing with that shoulder issue that eventually ended his season. He's finally had one, and things seem to be clicking for him at the right time.
And it's good to see. And look, very often everybody wants that first round pick to contribute right away. And I get it. But sometimes it takes a year. Sometimes health is an issue, and I'm fine with whether he develops into a really good left tackle or really good guard. If he can be a starter for a significant amount of time, I'm happy with that.
And you got to think, too, the Packers front office is got to be the most ecstatic the way that Jordan Morgan has played and looked at left tackle.
Yeah.
Sheed Walker's entering a contract year, and they wanted Jordan Morgan to make it hard at left tackle. Well, he's definitely made it a conversation, which is just fantastic for the business side of the NFL when it comes to these contract negotiations coming up, because Jordan Morgan may not be starting this year, but he may be the starting left tackle next year. And that's not – and again, I like Rasheed Walker. I'm not discrediting him, but you seem like you got something there with Jordan Morgan moving forward.
Yep, and that's a good thing. You always want your first-round picks to pan out. They don't always do.
Bill also chimed in, interior offensive line depth is frightening in the chat. I agree, Bill. We're going to get to that right now with the initial 53-man roster predictions that Gil and I have. Again, roster cutdowns, we're recording on Thursday, August 21st. The cutdowns are, 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, August 26th. So by the next time we record, we're going to be talking about what the initial 53-man roster looks like, or what the 53-man roster looks like at that point in time. It could be some guys from waivers, who knows? But Gil, we're going to breeze through right away real quick with the specialists. You and I both thinking the same thing. Brandon McManus is your kicker. Daniel Whelan's your punter. Matt Orzech's your long snapper.
Well, considering that Whelan and Orzech have no competition in camp and McManus only missed one field goal all year,
Yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy. And the kicker who played against the Colts, I honestly can't even remember his name right now. I feel terrible. McNamee, thank you. Yes. He didn't help the competition at all whatsoever. Quarterback, Gil, you and I thinking the same thing. Jordan Love's your starter. Malik Willis is your quality backup.
Yeah, the battle is really for that practice squad spot at QB3.
Who would you have as a practice squad quarterback? Because Sean Clifford knows the offense a little better, and he's your emergency quarterback if need be. But Taylor Elgersma, I think there's some talent there, but he's just very raw. And he's a guy I would love to get on the practice squad. But if they feel like they need an emergency quarterback, Sean Clifford has got to be there.
Yeah, I would go with Elgersma. I want the potential. I think Sean Clifford, we know what he is. I don't think he's going to be more than what he is. I'd rather be the odds being that we're not going to need the third quarterback to play much, if at all. I'd rather go with potential at this point and develop Elgersma.
Yeah, and with Elgersma, too, I will say with Sean Clifford, if they do let him go and keep Elgersma on the practice squad, it's a chance that Clifford's still available in free agency if it does come to that situation. Running back, Gil, you and I are thinking the same thing. Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, and Chris Brooks. And if you notice, Marshawn Lloyd not on there, you and I both thinking he's going to be on the IR to start the season with a designation to return. And remember, coming out of training camp before initial 53-man roster selections, teams get designated up to 2 players to return after 4 games. And obviously, Marshawn Lloyd would take one of those, in our opinion.
Yeah, I think that's the most logical thing to do, unless he really is all of a sudden healthy and ready to go by week 1.
All right, and Gil, for wide receiver, you and I are deferring a little bit here. We were thinking the same thing a few weeks ago when we were opening up training camp. But Gil, who are your receivers that are making the initial 53-man roster?
Well, I mean, I think you end up, first of all, with Christian Watson on the pup, so he's not going to count. And I think you have 5 locks if healthy, and now I'm not so sure Savion Williams will be healthy. Yeah. But you have Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden, and Savion Williams if he's ready to go. And then the 6th spot is between, Malik Heath and Mecole Hardman, I think. I would go with Heath slightly over Hardman. And then there's a couple of really good receivers who I would strongly consider putting on the practice squad.
I think the big thing with Mecole Hardman, and like you said with the Packer receivers, I would like to see Cornelius Johnson on the practice squad. I don't think he makes the 53-man roster, but that dude, I think, has played well enough this camp and in preseason games where, it's like, let's put him on the practice squad if possible. I have a feeling he could get scooped up by another team, or could go to a practice. It could go to another team that is a little thinner in depth at wide receiver too. Sounds like there's a lot of teams right now outside the Packers building that are looking for wide receiver depth, and Green Bay may be one of the spots that people are going to look to add from. With Mecole Hardman, I feel like he gets a job if he is the number one return man, but that's if the Packers receivers are healthy. So this is where I defer a little bit here, Gil. I think they're going to keep 7 wide receivers on the initial 53-man roster because Jaden Reed is dealing with that boot, the boot on his ankle. He's dealing with that ankle sprain. Matt the Golden's healthy, but Romeo Doubs has been kind of on and off with injuries in camp. Savion Williams and Dontavian Wicks have been dealing with injuries. So Mecole Hardman may need to play just out of necessity. So I think he's going to be on the initial 53-man roster right away, but his roster spot for the entire year, his security is not quite there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if injuries force it, that would be the next move. I would agree with you there. The question is, is Williams ready? Is, Doubs ready? Is Reed ready? Reed seems to be improving. He's not wearing the boot anymore, but is he going to be ready for game one? So, it just becomes a question of the health being the difference. We seem to be on the same page as far as who gets in. And
you got to think when Christian Watson comes back, it sounds like he may be back by October. It just sounds like from all the reports we're hearing is that he's moving around really well. It sounds like someone put it best where it sounds like a camp. He seems like a tiger caged at the zoo where he is just ready to go. He's ready to bolt and run and go 100%, but he's got to be – the Packers have to keep him safe from himself. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it just seems like he's ready to go, but they're going to put him on the PUP list just to make sure that he's fully recovered from that ACL injury, which he suffered back in January. But when Watson comes back, this receiver group could be very fluid, very changing. It could change throughout the season for sure.
It could. And look, obviously someone's got to leave the roster once you get back Christian Watson, and he just can't do too much too fast. You could, the worst case scenario is he does that, has a setback, and we're back to square one. And with the injury, he maybe misses the whole season.
So, Gil, let's move on to the tight end group. You and I we were similar a month ago. We're similar again, even with a new addition to the tight end group from our initial predictions. We have Tucker Kraft making it, Luke Musgrave making it. We have Ben Sims making it for a third season. But then we have John Fitzpatrick, who was a late addition to the team last year, has had a really good camp, has shown some really good things, big body, a willing blocking tight end. We have him making the initial 53-man roster. Matt LaFleur loves to run 12 personnel. He loves to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. I think John Fitzpatrick making this team, you and I thinking the same thing, it makes a lot of sense.
And the fact that both Sims and Fitzpatrick contribute regularly on special teams also makes this easier for the coaching staff to go with 4 tight ends.
John Fitzpatrick's also a former Georgia Bulldog. So, of course, he's going to make the team. That's a guarantee. So, offensive line, Gil, you have a pretty deep group making the initial 53 coming up on Tuesday.
Yeah, and the problem is the back end because I am just not comfortable with the depth here.
I'm not either.
As Bill alluded to, and I actually did an article on the Packers Post about the lack of depth this week on the interior offensive line. So check that out. It is really scary. I think, your starters are your starters, but it is the lack of depth. After you go Tom, Jenkins, Banks, Walker, Ryan, Morgan, Belton, you got to pick 3, and I'm just not happy with the choices, to be honest with you.
I'm not either, and that's where I was thinking that the Packers on the initial 53, I think they only keep 8 guys.
Wow.
I think they only keep 8, and I think that the locks to make it are Zach Tom, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Banks, Rasheed Walker, Sean Ryan, Jordan Morgan, and Anthony Belton. And then just for interior purposes, I think Jacob Monk does get in there, but I don't think his job is safe. I think if they're going to look at the waiver wire, and even though O-line depth and O-line talent is so thin in the NFL as a whole, the Packers' top 7, honestly, they're in a much better situation than most teams, believe it or not. But that interior O-line depth, Bill was saying it in the chat earlier, where Bill was saying in the chat earlier, where interior O-line depth is definitely a concern. And he's right. And I think they're going to look at the waiver wire to see if there's a better option available. Their 7th round pick, John Williams, I think he's going to be on the season-ending IR. Travis Glover is already on the season-ending IR. But I think because the talent isn't quite there, I think the Packers are going to get away with being able to keep a few guys currently in camp right now, like a Donovan Jennings or Kadeem Telford. I think they're going to be able to keep them on the practice squad pretty easily. I think they're going to keep multiple O-linemen on the practice squad and just elevate them for game days just for extra depth coming up.
Could be. The only thing that might prevent that is they may need certain guys for special teams and, for blocking for punts, field goals, kicks, and things like that. Yeah. That may make one more guy. That's
where I think the practice squad elevations come into play.
Yeah, but they may want a little more consistency. I can see 9, 8 is kind of pushing it in my mind.
Yeah, just the way I see it, it's just a matter of if you're trying to select, in my opinion, if you're trying to pick the 53 best players to protect and make sure that no one else gets the rights to them, I think you got to go thin in the O-line with the initial 53-man roster. Gosh, I can't talk. That's a mouthful. But I just think because if they let Donovan Jennings and Kadeem Telford hit the waiver wire, I don't think teams are going to be going crazy to go get them. They're not going to be like, hey, I want to get it's not like Anthony Johnson last year when he hit waivers after he was hurt. I just don't think their talent's there. The Packers can bring him back to the practice squad if possible. I think it's a very weak group behind those top 7, and I think the Packers are going to easily keep guys in-house, maybe on the practice squad. But this is the kind of discussion you got to imagine that the Packers front office is going to have coming up later this week.
Yep, absolutely.
And now let's go to the D-line, Gil. D-tackle, you and I were thinking the same thing going into camp, but now we're looking a little different. Give us your 5 defensive tackles you think will make the team.
Clark, Wyatt, Brooks, Wooden, and Stackhouse, and I think they try to put Brinson on the practice squad. And it's going to be close, but I see Stackhouse having that different body type and the ability to, be that run-stopping, early down, goal line, nose tackle to take over the TJ Slayton role. So I think that gives him the edge over Brinson.
I think Stackhouse is a very nice player, and I like Brinson too.
I do too.
Wooden has had a really good camp, and he's played well in the preseason games that we've seen this year. So I think he's definitely earned a spot. And the Packers have talked about they like their D tackle depth. So I think they keep 6 defensive tackles, and I do think Warren Brinson makes his team. He's a Georgia Bulldog, Gil. He gets that edge, in my opinion. So I think they're going to do what they can to keep this group together right now and just kind of build off of it. But who knows? They'll probably just, if anything, who knows? Maybe they cut Brinson and Stackhouse, and we don't even see it coming. I don't see that coming, but you never know with the NFL. It's very unpredictable.
Yep.
Defensive end, Gil, you and I think of the same thing. We both have Rashawn Gary, Kingsley Enagbare, Lucas Van Ness, Brenton Cox Jr., and Barron Sorrell making the team. We have Colin Oliver, who has not been healthy this training camp, staying on the PUP list. Maybe he lands on IR as well. I got to imagine because of his skill set, because he's a speed rusher, I feel like he's going to stay on the PUP list and they'll bring him back later in the year. But
makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on this. I think this group is going to look like this coming up on Tuesday.
Yeah, look, the top 3 are very straightforward and probably the top 4. And then Barron Sorrell, if he's healthy, he's going to make the team. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Barron Sorrell, he's also a candidate to possibly be on that IR with the designation to return. But the Packers, typically, they only want to use one of those. They want to save – you get 8 total designations to return from IR. I think they want to save 7 for the regular season, potentially. Linebacker group, Gil, who do you got making it?
I have 5 linebackers. Edrin Cooper, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, I think they're locks. I think Teron Hopper has taken a step forward. I think he's looking better this year in year 2, which is very encouraging. And then you've got that last spot, which to me is between Christian Welch and Isaiah Simmons. And I'm going with Welch, even though I think Goody might want to lean more with Simmons because of the athleticism that he loves so much. But to me, Welch is reliable. He's steady. He'll do just as much, if not more, on special teams. I think he's the wiser decision. Simmons is that guy, there's that old expression in the draft, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. Like the tools are all there, but he just can't seem to consistently get the job done. Like he's had some great practices and then he gets into the games and he looks lost.
Yeah, Isaiah Simmons has been extremely disappointing, and you could tell why he's bounced around the league quite a bit already. Former top 10 pick. He just looks lost, but I do think that fifth linebacker spot, Gil, is going to come down to special teams. And I do think whoever doesn't make it between Christian Welch and Isaiah Simmons, I think they're going to get claimed on waivers. I do, just because I think they're both solid pros who have been around the game for a little bit, who can contribute on special teams more than anything. But I do think Isaiah Simmons has got the slight edge. Christian Welch has done this song and dance with the Packers before. Maybe there's a chance that he comes back on the practice squad with the Packers. I don't think so, but I think it's going to be a really hard decision. It's going to come down to special teams. And like you said, Isaiah Simmons is way more athletic. He'd be an excellent gunner probably on special teams, and because he's so fast and he's a big guy too. And I feel like that's going to be more valuable than Christian Welch, who's a little stockier, not as fast as Isaiah Simmons on special teams.
It's possible. That's probably, in my mind, one of the closest battles out there.
I agree.
And,
I agree.
I just think I would go more with the sure thing. I think Welch is just more consistent. Simmons has more upside, but if he hasn't realized it in 5 years, you get the feeling he's not going to realize it.
I will say this. If it came down to where our fifth linebacker needs to step in and play on defense, I'd rather have Christian Welch playing than Isaiah Simmons right now. Exactly. But it's gonna come down to special. This is the kind of decisions that they got to make. It's gonna be hard. It's not gonna be easy. So
that's why they get the big bucks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Cornerback and safety, Gil, we're actually identical right now. The cornerback group, we both have obviously Nate Hobbs, the new free agent acquisition from the Raiders, Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, Kalen King making it this year, who spent his rookie season on the practice squad a year ago, and then Bo Melton. We have him making the initial 53-man roster, because Bo Melton looks like he fits in at corner, and he's a heck of a special teams player. Bo Melton's going to make this team, and it's exactly what the Packers wanted. It was to make sure Bo Melton had a spot on this team.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised, but very happy. I really like Bo Melton, and I think he has looked like he's played cornerback a lot longer than a few months. Let's put it that way.
Helps that he has blood in the NFL who plays corner as well.
Yes.
Max Melton for the Arizona Cardinals, but the safety group, we both have 5 safeties making the initial 53-man roster. Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, Zane Anderson, and Ketan Oladapo. Gil, I was almost ready to put Omar Brown in this group, but because of that chest injury, which really sucks because Omar Brown's been one of the cooler stories of training camp this year. He had an epic family night in front of the fans at Lambeau. Seemed like a guy who people really juiced up about. Coaches were really juiced up about. You just hope that he's healthy now, because that injury, that when you saw him getting carted off in Indianapolis with the oxygen mask and everything, that was very scary. And I just hope for the best for Omar Brown, but I don't think he's got a spot on the initial 53-man roster, but I think he's an excellent practice squad candidate.
Yeah, I think he is, if he's healthy. It depends how long it takes him to get, you could put him on the PUP, you could put him on the IR. I would like to see them keep him around, whether or not he gets activated this year or just comes back to camp next year. I think he's earned at least that much.
Yeah, for sure. And he's a guy who, remember, the Packers had him in for a top 30 visit leading up to the 2024 NFL draft. So they like him a lot. I don't think it's going to be enough to keep him on the 53-man roster. Who knows? If that injury is serious enough where it's kind of like the A.J. Dillon situation last year, where Brian Gutekunst put him on the IR and essentially said, hey, like head, neck, and heart, those are the big things. We don't want to mess with that. Anything internal, it's like the heart, it's like anything internal could be scary. And if there's a lot more damage there internally, he could be an IR candidate as well, just to get protected by the Packers and take time to heal up and get ready for another season ahead.
Yeah, I wish him all the best.
For sure. And Gil, obviously, there's going to be a lot of eyes on the second and third stringers, fourth stringers trying to make their final claim for the 53-man roster, maybe not in Green Bay, but maybe elsewhere, a practice squad spot, maybe not in Green Bay, but maybe elsewhere. So you got a lot cooking online for Packers Post at Cheesehead TV. I'll let you tell the listeners what you got cooking.
Well, over at Packers Post, I did mention the offensive line, interior offensive line depth. I also did a 53-man roster projection. And at Cheesehead, I kind of broke down the contrast between Christian Welch and Isaiah Simmons. So, what the choice is, how they're different, what their skill set is, and, who I think the Packers are going to pick.
Yeah, we could have gone on and on about the Welch Isaiah Simmons battle for sure for that fifth linebacker spot, but that decision, who makes the roster, that will be a Rich Bisaccia decision for sure.
Probably.
It has to be.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing? We can go on about that for a long time too.
Yes. So yeah, but who knows? Hopefully it turns out for the best. But
yes,
let's wrap up with some trivia. How's that sound?
Let's do it.
Okay, well, we're going to look at some history in this week's trivia, going all the way back to the days of Don Hudson. His number 14 is retired by the Packers for good reason. Between the years of 1942 and 1944, Hudson registered 4 200-yard receiving games. Gil, you know your Packer history. Let's see if you know this. Besides Don Hudson, who's the only other receiver in Green Bay Packers history to record multiple 200-yard receiving games?
Multiple 200-yard receiving games. I am going to say Carroll Dale.
Carroll Dale is a great guess. He's had one 200-yard receiving game, though. It's a terrific guess, but it's not. It's actually Billy Houghton, who did it in 1952 and 1956. If you're watching on YouTube, I apologize. I missed a parentheses on there, but you get the point. It's 1952 and 1956. He recorded 6 catches for 200 yards against the LA Rams on December 7th of 1952. And then on October 21st of 1956, against those same Rams, he caught 7 passes, and which is still to this day a record 257 yards. Hudson's career best for yards in the game was 237. Now, I did want to bring up Houghton, Gil, because Houghton was the founder and first president of the NFL Players Association. He unfortunately passed away earlier this month at the age of 95. We didn't really have time to talk about his passing. It was a bummer that obviously that this happened, but hey, he lived a good life, 95 years old. He was also the first Packer to catch a touchdown pass at Lambeau Field when it opened in 1957, and the first rookie in NFL history to register a 1,000-yard receiving season. Spent 7 years with the Packers, 1 with the Browns, and his final 4 years with the Dallas Cowboys. And he was the NFL's all-time leading receiver in receptions and receiving yards when he retired in 1963. Gil, he kind of dominated the era. Like, are you surprised he's not a Pro Football Hall of Famer?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think the fact that the Packers were not very good when he was playing so well, and the Cowboys were not very good when he was there, I think that had something to do with it. If he would have been able to stick around 1 or 2 more years with the Packers when Lombardi came in and they started winning, because I think he only played 1 year under Lombardi, or did he trade him in training camp in 59? I'm trying to remember.
He was traded. to the Browns, yep.
Yeah, so to me, if he would have stuck around 1 or 2 more years in Green Bay, he probably would have made it. But the fact that he was on some bad teams hurt him.
Which is a bummer. It's like, I feel like the Hall of Fame credentials should be, the big question I always have is, did you dominate your era? And he definitely did. He definitely dominated. Doubt. What's that?
No doubt.
Yeah, he dominated his era. And if you want to say where it's like, oh, he was on a lot of bad teams. Well, Joe Thomas for the Cleveland Browns was also on a lot of bad teams when he played recently. And that guy was a first ballot Hall of Famer, So he was in right away. But just in case those who are listening, those who are watching want to know, the other Packers to record 200-plus yards receiving in a single game includes Don Beebe, Jordy Nelson, Davante Adams, James Lofton, Carroll Dale, your guy, and Javon Walker. Davante Adams is actually 4 yards away in 2021 from having a second 200-yard receiving game. So, yeah, I'm surprised Davante didn't make it with how much attention, how many throws he got his way in the final few years in Green Bay and LaFleur's offense. So, but yeah, Billy Houghton. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's
good
your
one.
answer.
Very good one.
Yeah, so, I think so. It's always good to go down memory lane.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is it for us today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Gil Packers and at GB Packers Sean. Stay up to date on all things Packers or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackersean@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. I want to have a big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show, and thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.